It feels like a foregone conclusion at this point that sometime in the near future, maybe even at the upcoming Star Wars Celebration, there will be an announcement that an Obi-Wan Anthology movie will be made. That'll of course leave us with one big question. Just what story is there to tell about Obi-Wan that takes place between episodes 3 and 4? Now I know some of you will immediately say that this will give Lucasfilm the opportunity to tell the story of how Obi-Wan is actually Rey's grandfather. However, for the sake of this video, let's assume that come this December, we learn that Obi-Wan has nothing to do with Rey's lineage. So what other story could this movie possibly tell? Well, the problem as I see it is that not many stories will fit in with the character and what we assume he's been doing with those 19 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, which should be little more than making sure Luke stays safe. And keep in mind this is exactly what we've already seen from Obi-Wan in the new Star Wars comic book run from Marvel, which is of course canon, where we have gotten a few issues showing his mundane life and how hard it is for him to stop being a Jedi. Now, once upon a time, you could have made an anthology movie about Maul's hunt for Obi-Wan and their final duel, but thanks to the episode of Rebels called Twin Sons, that storyline has been taken care of. Not to mention, it probably would have confused the hell out of a lot of casual Star Wars fans that have no idea Maul did not die after being sliced in half by Obi-Wan on Naboo in Episode 1. Then again, with a full movie at your disposal, you probably could have explained all that. Now, besides ending their rivalry, I believe that episode of Rebels also did something else for the character of Obi-Wan. It showed that over the course of time, he has become the very epitome of a Jedi, and that he is ready to become a Force Ghost. Because keep in mind that to become a Force Ghost, according to what was established in the Clone Wars animated series, one must overcome all fear and give up all attachments. And it is clear by everything he does in this episode that he has done all that, and that his only attachment left to cause him any fear at all is of course Luke. Because I think it's pretty clear that Obi-Wan had no intentions on ever actually confronting Maul, that he was likely watching him from afar the whole time and figured he'd eventually go mad or succumb to dehydration and exhaustion and simply perish, that it was only when Maul lured Ezra to Tatooine that Obi-Wan was forced to intervene to save the young Padawan. And when Obi-Wan was talking to Ezra, which was an interaction I was worried about before the episode, he even told him that he had no intentions on ever fighting Maul, though it was likely inevitable now. Obi-Wan also brilliantly convinced Ezra that the holocron had never actually showed him that the answer to defeating the Sith was on Tatooine, even though it actually was, and that it had only showed him what Maul had wanted. And Obi-Wan also convinced Ezra that the onus to stopping the Sith was on him and his friends, and that was where he needed to be and to put his faith, not in some old man wasting away in the desert. But the true brilliance of this episode, I believe anyway, is that it showed just what Obi-Wan would be willing to do to protect Luke. Because it wasn't until Maul figured out that he was there to protect someone that Kenobi actually ignited his saber and was ready to fight him. And then call it what you will, good strategy or baiting Maul into a trap, but Obi-Wan shifted to Form 4, which was the one used by Qui-Gon Jinn. And that's when Maul, being exhausted and likely wanting to end it quickly, went for the move that had killed Qui-Gon Jinn in Episode 1. But that was exactly what Obi-Wan was hoping he would do, and he took the opportunity to end the duel pretty much immediately. Now the real interesting question here, in my opinion, is what if Maul hadn't fallen for it? What would have Obi-Wan done then? What would he have been willing to do to make sure Maul didn't survive and find out about Luke? Would he have even tapped into the dark side to defeat him? Did he already teeter on using the dark side when he baited Maul with that move, fully intending to kill him? However, my absolute favorite part of this episode is what happened after the duel ended. The compassion Obi-Wan showed for Maul, an adversary that had taken so much from him over the years, including his master Qui-Gon and the love of his life Satine. But what it also did, this episode as a whole, was let us know that the only fear or anger Obi-Wan had left in him was for Luke's well-being, that he could even give peace of mind to Maul in his final moments, confirming for him that it was the chosen one he was here protecting, though that in itself is debatable, instead of making some type of little quip like his "so uncivilized" line after defeating General Grievous in Episode 3. Obi-Wan also didn't correct Maul when he asked if the Chosen One would avenge them. Jedi don't avenge, and instead of saying that, Obi-Wan just let him have his final moment. The last thing this episode did was compliment A New Hope beautifully, because at one point when Obi-Wan is dueling Vader on the Death Star, he looks over and sees that Luke is about to escape with his sister, and he gives a smile. Not just because they're going to get away, but because he somehow knows at that moment that Luke is going to be okay on his own now, that his task as Guardian is complete, and Yoda will take the next part of the plan and train him. But not only that, but his own training is also complete, and he is finally ready to take the next step and become a Force ghost because he has let go of his last fear and attachment, that being Luke. That's when he simply raises his saber and becomes one with the Force, and gets the last laugh on his old apprentice by showing him what the path of the light can really lead to. Now, after going through all that, I don't know about you, but I feel like Obi-Wan's story is more or less complete, that there is nothing else that needs to be delved into. So what if instead of just a straight Obi-Wan Anthology movie, we get a larger story that Obi-Wan ends up being a part of? What if we finally get to see something on screen that some of us have been dying to see our whole lives? That line spoken by Obi-Wan in A New Hope about Vader hunting down and destroying the Jedi made into a movie. Obviously, there'd be more to the plot than that, meaning it'd be more than just Vader roaming the galaxy and dueling the last few Jedi that he finds, though I think most of us would be okay if that's all it really was. Anyway, it could take place roughly 12 years or so after Revenge of the Sith, which puts it in the timeline between what we've seen Obi-Wan up to in the comics and the start of the show Rebels. It could center around Vader's continuing hunt for Kenobi, and thanks to the Season 1 finale of Rebels, when Vader spoke to the Emperor, we know he is very much still interested in finding Kenobi, not that we couldn't all just assume that anyway. So what might a movie like this look like? Well, it could start out with a couple of Inquisitors finding and battling the Jedi Luminara Unduli, and I use her mainly because we know from Season 1 of Rebels that the Empire has her body and uses it to lure in other Jedi. So these Inquisitors capture her and take her back to Vader's castle on Mustafar, where our favorite Dark Lord of the Sith, Vader himself, tortures her until she reveals that she knows where there is another Jedi, that being Quinlan Vos, and he's hiding on Tatooine and has been helping to start a rebellion against the Empire from the shadows. I use Vos mainly because he's been to Tatooine before. We see him there in Episode 1, and he's worked with Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars animated series. Anyway, the Inquisitors offer to go to Tatooine to find Vos, but Vader says no, that Vos is very familiar with the criminal underworld and can blend in too well on a planet like Tatooine. So instead he sends a bounty hunter after him, that being Cad Bane. After some hunting, Cad Bane will eventually find Vos on Tatooine, and just when he gains the upper hand on him, Kenobi will come to Vos's rescue, and together they will defeat and kill Bane. Vos will of course be shocked to see Obi-Wan alive and well, and tells him that he must flee Tatooine immediately, that Bane works for Vader, and when he doesn't report back to him, it will only be a matter of time before the planet is swarming with Inquisitors, or that even Vader himself will show up. Obi-Wan tells Vos that he doubts Vader will come here of all places, but refuses to elaborate on what that means. Vos then tells Kenobi about a growing movement against the Empire, that several rebel cells are forming, and that some of the few remaining Jedi are even attempting to organize them with the help of some senators, such as Bail Organa. Vos even tells them that Ahsoka Tano is one of the Jedi, or in her case former Jedi, helping those cells organize into one single rebellion. Obi-Wan will of course refuse to help, making up some sort of excuse, but Vos will sense there is more to it than that and won't let it drop. Eventually he tracks Obi-Wan back to his little hut, and at some point while Obi-Wan is away, breaks in and comes across Anakin's saber. And of course with his ability, psychometry, he learns that Anakin Skywalker has become Darth Vader, and after rummaging through some of Obi-Wan's other possessions, puts it all together exactly why Obi-Wan is here, to watch after Luke, the son of Anakin. Vos will of course wait for Obi-Wan to return home, and when he does he confronts him about everything. And here's where the story could take all types of interesting turns. Does Vader come to Tatooine and even sense Obi-Wan, thus giving new meaning to that line in A New Hope where Vader says, "I sense something, a presence I've not felt since," and leaves it hanging. This could also explain why, in Rebels, Vader is still very much hunting Kenobi, because not so long ago he felt his presence on Tatooine. Do Vos and Kenobi maybe try to set a trap for Vader that goes all sorts of wrong? Or does Vos maybe even threaten to tell Luke everything so that he can take him to be trained? What would Obi-Wan do to stop him? What if Vos is captured by the Empire and taken to Vader himself? What would Kenobi do then, knowing that the truth about Luke could be pulled out of him in one of any number of ways? These are just some of the possibilities, and for now I'll let your imagination fill in the rest. So if it were up to me, that's pretty much how I would handle an Obi-Wan Anthology movie, or at least how I would get it started. Oh, and I'd certainly include a few other cool things in there, like a scene where Kenobi goes to the Lars homestead, which of course could be after his encounter with Vos, where they kill Cad Bane and thus Vader may be coming, where we get to see Owen and Beru again, played by the same actors from the prequels, and maybe one last time Kenobi begs them to let him take and train Luke, but they still refuse, at which point Kenobi could get a visit from Qui-Gon Jinn, who gives him guidance. This conversation with Qui-Gon could also be a breaking and then turning point for Kenobi in his overall story, thus giving a greater purpose to the movie. And it could be a scene where he gets all of his frustrations out over everything that has happened to him, and even goes so far as to blame his old master for making him promise to train Anakin, which is what he feels like led to the downfall of the Jedi in the first place. And it's after this outburst that Qui-Gon calmly tells him that now that he has faced all of his anger, he is finally ready to start his training on how to merge with the Force after his death. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to let me know what you think an Obi-Wan movie should look like, and just how far do you think Obi-Wan would be willing to go to protect Luke? Let me know in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, please subscribe to my channel and check out some of my other videos. If you've already subscribed, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, hit the notification button or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.